Tonight on the Local Live, Mamaroneck Republicans approach former party chair for possible mayor's race.
169 Mount Pleasant Avenue sidewalk is a trip hazard.
A Hells Angels gang member from Mamaroneck could face life in prison.
And are you brave enough to go bold for childhood cancer? Find out how later on in the show.
Bad Moms actress Katherine Hahn stars in a new movie filmed in White Plains. This and other trending stories in the media.
Mamaroneck turned green for this year's Sound Shore St. Patrick's Day Parade.
And tonight we have a two-part roundtable. First, we will talk with Mamaroneck School Superintendent Dr. Shaps about his proposed budget.
Next, MHS Principal Dr. Clain and Assistant Superintendent Dr. Mazzone join us to discuss the fate of Apple, a long-running program that offers small classes and individual attention. Stay tuned, and remember, you can join the conversation with your calls, emails, and tweets. Good evening, everyone. It's Thursday, March 23rd. I'm Alexandra Garcia.
And I'm Rob Baez, and welcome to the Local Live.
While Mayor Norman Rosenblum continues to consider a race for the county legislature, Mamaroneck Republicans have approached a former party chair to run for his spot. George Mergadichian told the Local Live it is a rumor, not a determination. However, he also said he was always happy to serve my community in whatever capacity they need me. This would be his first run for the village board. He served on the zoning board for 10 years and is currently president of the Oriental Point Association. Two Democrats, Town Councilman Tom Murphy and former village trustee John Hofstetter, threw their hats in the ring last week.
Worried about people tripping over loose and uneven concrete and the potential for lawsuits, the Mamaroneck Village Board unanimously approved $220,000 to replace the decaying sidewalk in front of the police station and courthouse at 169 Mount Pleasant Avenue and Johnson Street. Funding will come from issuing debt or from a future budget application.
Jeff Amato of Mamaroneck and 5 other members or associates of the New Rock Hells Angels were arrested last week on gang-related offenses. Amato, age 50, faces life in prison on charges of participating in a narcotics conspiracy. He is also charged with possession and distribution of methamphetamine, which could get him 20 years. The U.S. Attorney's Office said the gang wreaked havoc on the streets of Westchester, Putnam, and Dutchess counties since at least 2008. Other charges included racketeering, money laundering, and assaulting a rival gang member with a hammer.
Some sad news from the Mamaroneck School District. Murray Avenue school teacher Elizabeth Dillon died on Saturday after battling cancer for 14 months. The school district said Dillon's love of children and quiet, positive demeanor touched the lives of countless students and staff members. A Larchmont native, Dillon taught at Murray for 26 years and will definitely be missed by the community.
Are you willing to shave your head to raise funds to fight childhood cancer? Mamaroneck sports bar Molly Spillane aims to raise $15,000 for the St. Baldrick Foundation at its event on Saturday, March 25th, starting at 6 p.m. Funds go to find cures for pediatric cancer. 8-year-old cancer survivor Margaret Schecker of Larchmont will be honored. The whole Molly's family is involved in raising funds, and so should you. Brave the shave and help fund childhood cancer research. For more information, visit stbaldricks.org and search for Molly Spillanes.
Bringing us the online stories trending in the media, here is Matt Sullivan.
The world's oldest billionaire, David Rockefeller, has passed away at the age of 101 this past Monday on March 20th. David was the runner of Chase National Bank for years and spent a lot of time giving away assets to favored causes, such as donating $150 million to Manhattan's Museum of Modern Art. Former Mayor Michael Bloomberg says that he has known no other individual who has always contributed more to the civic life of New York City. More information can be found about David Rockefeller on Forbes.com. 2 brothers from Mamaroneck have helped the Yonkers Track Club score 13 medals at an indoor track championship on Staten Island. Effie Bellows' 4th grader Kyle Snow won a gold medal in shot put and a bronze medal in the high jump division. Kyle's older brother, Jaden Snow, a 6th grader at Mamaroneck Middle School, received the USATF New York 2016 Athlete of the Year Track and Field. He also won a silver medal in the high jump boys division. For more information about the brothers and their team, you can find it at the Daily Voice. After a long construction period, Augie's Italian restaurant in Larchmont has finally opened on March 20th after moving from Boston Post Road to Chatsworth Avenue. According to manager Charlie Figueroa, the restaurant has been expanded and updated and is now serving lunch. For more information, visit the Daily Voice. A new Netflix movie called Private Life has been filmed along Main Street and North Broadway in White Plains. The movie will star Katherine Hahn, who's best known for her performance in the movie Bad Moms, and Billions actor Paul Giamatti. For more information, visit the Daily Voice. And Larchmont Public Library will be hosting the 3rd annual Mamaroneck High School art exhibit that will feature the work of students who are enrolled in the school's drawing and painting program. The exhibit will feature artwork by 14 students across a variety of styles and mediums. Kevin Clain, chairman of the Mamaroneck High School Art Department, says he's happy the students' work will be displayed and admired in an off-campus setting, as it will urge them to work harder and create more artwork. More information can be found on Mamaroneck Hamlet Hub. If you can find it online, you can find it in the media. I'm Matt Sullivan.
Coming up next, the superintendent of the Mamaroneck School District, Dr. Shaps, will join Mike Witch to talk about the school budget and the future of the Apple program. But first, it's time for our local trivia.
Good evening, and as you heard, my guest tonight is Dr. Robert Shaps, the Superintendent of Schools in Mamaroneck. Our purpose for the first part of our roundtable is to provide the schools with an additional opportunity to let you know about the proposed school budget for next year, and that is the superintendent's proposed budget. That is not the final proposed budget. In addition, of course, you have access to Board of Education meetings, which are videotaped by LMC-TV and are archived. The school has a website, they send email, and of course there's print resources. So tonight you have a chance to listen, and if you want to ask a question, you can of course telephone, email, or tweet. And we're trying a new process tonight. The calls will be answered by staff inside the control room and then transmitted to me on a piece of paper. And that way I get an accurate question and I can slip it in when it's an appropriate time. And we'll see if that works better than trying to field the phone calls live in the studio. Full disclosure, I am a retired teacher, a proud retired teacher from Mamaroneck Schools. And as a journalist, that's the hat I'm wearing tonight, my views are neutral. So with that, welcome, Dr. Shaps.
Thank you. It's a pleasure to be here.
Now, you've got a lot of paper spread out in front of you.
I do. I have a lot to talk about, Mike.
I think the average taxpayer in Mamaroneck would just like to know, are my taxes staying flat, going down, or going up?
Well, that's a complicated but in some ways difficult question to ask. But I'll say that
it's easy to ask. It's a tough one to answer, I'm sure.
That's true. I would say that we know based on the valuation total assessment, the tax rate is estimated to go down by 1%. However, we are introducing a budget that is increasing the tax levy by 2.48% over the current year. And so we're raising more tax levy to fund the recommended budget at this
So
point.
the taxes will go up?
That's correct.
By approximately?
Well, as I said, the tax rate, so the levy is going up by, as I said, by 2.48%. For the average assessed home per thousand, the tax rate is going down by 1%. So some people will actually see it's estimated a drop in taxes.
Okay.
To fund the budget.
Let's go back for a second. The budget that you presented to the Board of Education was your recommendation, your recommended budget. That's not a final budget. That was presented at the board meeting, I think, on the 21st.
That's correct.
And in advance of that, on the 15th, you sent a letter out to I guess, all the stakeholders in the district,
Sure.
explaining a bit about the process, and you focused in on one area that I think you figured you'd get some feedback on, and that is the Apple program, the trimming back or even elimination. And we're going to talk about that in the second half of our roundtable with some additional guests. So the process of the budget, you recommend, and the board has to adopt it on?
The board will adopt it on April 18th. So that is the official time when all boards have to adopt for the May vote. You know, you alluded to a recommended budget. The process really is that the administration, principals, central office staff, our directors come together and we look at where we are as a district. We have the tagline, invest, improve, and innovate. And I think, you know, looking at that, our goal is not only to understand what we've accomplished, where we've invested in programs and ed opportunities, but how do we look forward and understand the type of learning we want to happen each day in our schools. And so from the perspective of invest, I would say that the community has supported really our desire to kind of focus on not only authentic learning, but creating a vibrant learning experience with improving quality teaching and learning. So for us, that translates to programs, experiences across the system, ensuring class sizes that maximize learning, and looking at all aspects of school life. I mean, we're very proud of our vibrant performing arts program. Our dual language program is expanding each year. We've invested to meet the needs of all students in our co-teaching program across the system. So lots happening. Innovation, though, is kind of a buzzword in education. For us, it's really grounded in opportunities for teachers to explore new avenues and opportunities for teaching. Our robotics program, our computer science program, both at the elementary, middle, and high school, is expanding.
You don't have robots teaching it, do you?
Well, we're working on it.
I was always afraid of that when I was a teacher.
Our robotics, our high school robotics team had wonderful opportunity to really work at a regional level to participate in competitions. Our computer science students, we have 22, I think, teams in the Westchester App Design Contest, which we won last year. We really want to send kids out into that real world to test their knowledge in unpredictable circumstances, so it's exciting.
And I'm sure you wanted to send them out prepared.
Absolutely.
We have a question that came in actually before our show, which some people do sometimes, and it says, according to charts and graphs on pages 6 and 7 of the presentation.
It's nice to know people are taking careful attention to our budget documents.
Student enrollment has increased, but staffing has declined. And during the presentation, you also mentioned that the district was maintaining favorable class size. Question, how can more students and less staff not result in bigger classes?
So it's true that one of the things I wanted to point out is that unlike many districts that we compare ourselves to, but in the region, we have been growing steadily. Since 2010, we've added 587 students to our school system, which is extraordinary. And primarily, our elementary schools have close to 350 students more than expected through our demographic study, especially Chatsworth and Murray. They seem to be growing new
large
students.
ones.
Absolutely. I think when you look at our growing enrollment and then you look at our fiscal responsibility in terms of minimal growth in the budget, that translates to lower per pupil costs. And so for the last 3 years, we've seen a decline in our per student costs as a result of the fact that we're growing more than we're growing the budget. The board has, and certainly I support, maintained class sizes. So I think we've been very efficient in finding ways to trim expenditures, not compromise the quality of our experience, and maintain class sizes. And I think what's interesting about that comment is this, knowing that we are asking taxpayers to support lower per pupil costs, when you look at the litany of new programs that we've added, we're doing it the right way. We're protecting the experience in the classroom, focusing in on leveraging as much as we can the relationship between teachers and student, and that's what we're most proud of.
So, but you actually have more kids and you still can maintain a classroom of reasonable size?
Absolutely.
But you're not adding, you're not expanding
Well,
these classes?
so what's interesting is we've added 31 certified staff since 2012. And so because our commitment to class size and that quality of the classroom experience, we've been adding sections at the elementary schools. We've been adding additional programs. I think at Mamaroneck High School, we've invested in pathways. And so we have a 4-year design course. We have a 4-year computer science program. We have a culinary program for multiple years as well. And so we're giving kids more opportunities to go deeper in their learning, and that equates to more staff.
We have another question that came in before the show. Again, somebody reading the document carefully says Mamaroneck is in the bottom 20% in Westchester for spending on a per pupil basis. And the question is that really where we want to be, and is it acceptable? And I think I just heard you say that it's not a negative.
Well, I don't think it's a negative because I think we've been good stewards of the community's trust around finance and managing the budget. I think it speaks to the challenge of how do you maintain and improve the quality of your system, keep costs down in a tax cap, under the tax cap law. The reality is the formula, it really drives how much under the limit we're allowed to grow without an override. And one thing that I didn't get to mention that I think is critically important, this year, because of the enrollment pressures for the last several years, I am presenting a budget that is requiring us to go over the cap, and it will require an override vote, a majority of 60%. That, though, is the first time since the 2012-13 tax cap that we've gone for an override. I think one thing I want to say to you and to our community, for the first 3 years under the tax cap, we limited the growth of our tax levy. We didn't go to the limit of the cap. And by doing so, we've saved taxpayers about $3.1 million since the tax cap. That's really translated to a cumulative savings of close to $14 million. Because in the first year, if we went to the full cap, additional $1.5 million, and each year afterward, our tax levy would have been $121 million, or about $1.7 million more than this budget is requiring. So we have been financially prudent, smart in terms of efficiencies, but really investing in quality.
You know, I don't mean to press this point, but when someone says you're at the lower 20%, don't real estate agents translate that into a negative?
Well, absolutely. You know,
Well,
so how do you, Mike? So I had the opportunity to meet with 2 real estate agencies locals, and they have been overwhelmed by the interest of new families coming to Mamaroneck, and I think it speaks to the quality of our product. We had, in the last 3 years, an inordinate amount of new families coming from all over the region for the purpose of joining our school system. And as I said, when you have a lot of regional choices, when you ask people why did they move to our school system, it's to access the schools. So I think it's a healthy indicator of the vibrant aspect of our program, the quality of our teaching, and the way we're preparing students for the future.
Okay, so let's, in the couple of minutes we have left, let's highlight some of the pluses in next year's recommended
Sure.
budget.
I mean, so one of the things I want to say is not only what we're offering this year, but it's what we've created in the last few years under fiscal restraint. I would say, as I mentioned, we have added AP classes and opened up our classes to all students. AP English,
Advanced Placement.
Advanced Placement English. We certainly have introduced our dual language program, our Spanish English program, which is a district program. This year we have 87 new applicants for the kindergarten cohort that's coming in. We've actually lowered our class size at the elementary during this time. We reduced for grades 4 and 5. So the board made that decision 3 years ago. We moved to a full-day kindergarten. As well. We restored our full Homics team, and certainly have accommodated that growth. We've added a number of after-school clubs and sports teams, which we're very proud of it. We have a really wonderful middle school music course, electronic e-lab, with Jeremy Franzea, teachers doing wonderful things. And we've introduced a capstone project, which is a year-long inquiry at the 5th grade and at the middle school this year as well. Going forward, we're investing in our original science research research program because of the growing interest in that 4-year high school research program. We're adding staffing for that. And Joe Liberti, who I think has been on the show,
He has a few times,
a
yes.
wonderful high school social teacher, is going to pilot a multi-year civics course. You know, civic engagement. We're very interested in having students understand what does it mean to get behind a civic-related issue and a social cause, and be able to understand how you build an action plan over time and advocate for a position. So we really want our students to be engaged in the broader world.
Do you have the capital projects in
We,
the works?
we do. I'm glad you mentioned it. This spring, we will break ground on our improving our high school PE instructional spaces and locker rooms. The community voted almost 2 years ago to support a $10 million bond. And so by next October, we'll have brand new PE instructional spaces and locker rooms. One of our board, it's not the gymnasium. It's actually small and mid-sized learning spaces. We have expanded the number to really talk about wellness, individualized health and well-being. So we're excited by that, as well as our locker rooms, which will serve the community. Sure. And I think I want to say that we are very proud of our community partnerships, the STEM Alliance. Certainly other organizations, Sheldrake, we're really looking to continue developing relationships with the community organizations.
And we are almost out of time.
It's incredible.
For this segment.
We just started talking.
I know. Is there anything that we didn't get to? Well, I started out by saying that things happen between now and April 16th when the board has to adopt a budget. Are there meetings that people can attend, or
absolutely?
Coffees,
we have
presentations?
So the board is about to send out a note to the community. It's really important, given the need for an override, to communicate and really tell our story. And so not only will we have meetings for the next 3 Tuesdays, where we will continue to discuss the budget in public, but the Board of Education and administration will be out and about in the public, trying to attend as many public events, community events, to really kind of inform the public about what's happening with our budget, the need to support the school district in this year, especially with the override vote, and really tell the story about growing enrollment, quality programs, and fiscal responsibility. So
good. And I want to remind our viewers that the Board of Ed meeting, I think there's a PowerPoint presentation that you made about the budget.
I encourage all of our community members to go to the district website under Board of Education. There's a host of budget materials, presentations, and certainly the LMC-TV. They can watch our budget meetings as well,
yes.
and show up as well.
And one of the items that's on that budget, as I mentioned at the start of this, is the Apple program. And in part 2 of our roundtable tonight, we're going to address that with Nora Mazzone and Elizabeth Clain.
Absolutely.
And we're going to start with a video clip. But before we do that, I just want to thank you again for talking about this budget.
I look forward to coming back and talking more about the adopted budget.
You could come back anytime you want. I mean, we love that LMC is taken advantage of, so to speak, or used for this purpose to get information out to the community.
Well, in all seriousness, we want the community to be informed and really understand what we're trying to accomplish, and we're very proud of our school system, so great.
Well, it's obviously a major part of the community.
Absolutely.
Is education. So folks, stay tuned, because coming up next is a discussion with more administrators about the Apple program, and we'll be right back in about a minute and a half.
Is your teen interested in films? Then LMC-TV's filmmaking workshop is just for them. Teens work together to write, direct, act, and edit their own films. It's a full filmmaking experience you won't get anywhere else. We offer 2 workshops with limited space, so sign them up today for a fun, enriching experience. LMC-TV, your filmmaking community connection.
some Girl Scout cookies?
Yeah, of course. Let me go get some money.
They're on to us. We need to step up our game. They're going to find out that I'm Abigail Daniels.
I'm a producer.
News anchor,
Director,
host, producer,
a reporter,
audio operator,
Executive producer,
camera operator,
writer,
editor,
anchor,
writer,
producer,
reporter,
a sports producer,
reporter,
a sports producer,
programmer,
producer,
a reporter,
studio production manager,
executive producer,
a reporter, floor manager,
a makeup artist,
an associate producer,
sound engineer,
technical director,
news editor,
A writer.
co-producer, senior news producer.
We
We
are Local Live.
Did you know that if you missed the last government meeting, you can watch it on our website? Just go to LMC-TV.org, click on videos, then click on municipal meetings, scroll down to find the meeting you want, or use the search function in the upper right corner and type in the name or date of the meeting. Then watch. You can see the full agenda and jump to a specific agenda item. It's all a click away at LMC-TV.org.
Yes. Welcome back to our roundtable, and tonight we have Dr. Robert Shaps with us, who's the superintendent of Mamaroneck Schools, and joining him at the table, in the middle of the table, is Elizabeth Clain, who's the principal of Mamaroneck High School, and Dr. Nora Mazzone, who is the assistant superintendent for Student Support Service. Welcome. And as I said before the break, right now we're going to focus on an issue in the budget which has, I guess, raised a lot of commotion. I read the letter that you sent to the community where you specifically addressed the Apple program and how you intend to sort of morph it into some additional services, so you're not just leaving these students out in the cold, so to speak. So we can talk about that.
Absolutely, and I think from our view, it's a redesign. And certainly, I want to say at the beginning of our conversation that clearly this 40-year-old program has been a wonderful success and resource for countless students in our community. And we certainly recognize the commitment of our teachers, the family-like school-within-school feel, and the track record of success relative to high school graduation. Yeah. And so
it's 40 years old.
I believe so, close to it. And
actually older than we are.
I think what's important, what I tried to convey, is that over the process of a year looking at a program review and really looking broadly at the secondary level about the needs of a number of students, our thinking was, how can we commit to the least restrictive environment, maintain strong relationships and support for students, but meet the individualized therapeutic needs of students coming into the high school as the population and the demands on students are changing. And that's really what we're here to talk about tonight. So it really is a redesign. At
the last Board of Education meeting, you gave an opportunity for people to come to the microphone and express their views. And we have just a short clip of that meeting where one student is particularly emotional about how the Apple program helped her. So if we can see that from last Board of Education meeting, and then we'll come back and talk more about the Apple program. So go to the tape.
Through the Apple program, I have received a family that I never thought that I would have. Going into my freshman year, I just came out of a horrific middle school experience. I did not have the motivation to succeed, and I wanted to have the ability to say to myself, you know, I'm gonna do well, and then my actions would follow. But I would walk into class every day, and it just wasn't possible. I would, my mindset wasn't there. And going into the Apple program, I'm now able to have resources through the teachers and my fellow students supporting me throughout the entire way. And I'm finally able to get my homework done at the end of the day.
That's interesting to hear. Obviously, an impassioned plea to not do something that you are recommending doing. And talk about the study that led you to recommend this redesign of Apple.
I think I want to give Principal Clain the opportunity to talk about the work involved to really review the program and what we're trying to accomplish.
Sure, Elizabeth.
So the Board of Ed every year undergoes program reviews. That's a review of programs that are not mandated by the states. They're not regents classes, something like that. So it might be the sports, it might be, we've done music reviews in the past, and this year they chose to review the Apple program, which, as we just mentioned, is in its 40th year. And so the review consisted of an analysis of qualitative data for the last however many years we could get data on, which ranged for certain, for some of the different indicators. And we also interviewed all the teachers that are involved in the program, teachers that had been in the program, directors that have been involved in the program, the former principal of Mamaroneck High School, Mark Orfinger, who you know. We did surveys of parents and the students, and we gathered a lot of information. And one of the things that became clear is that while what Dr. Shaps said is absolutely true, there are people, and you know them in the community, families who've had children who are there right now and who themselves graduated from the program. There has been a change in the needs of and sort of what that program meant from 40 years ago. So 40 years ago when it was started, it was during a movement in this country where a lot of experimental education was taking place. And the Mamaroneck School District had a number of different programs at that time. And the Apple program was one of them. So that allowed for a lot of project-based learning and learning outside of the classroom. And but over the last 10 to 15 years, as New York State has required more and more, put more and more restrictions on what it means to graduate from a New York State school, the program in Apple has really begun to mirror more and more the program in the main school. So every student who graduates from a New York State school has to have a Regents in science, has to have a Regents in math, 2 Regents in history, 1 Regents in English. And whether you're in the main school or you're in Apple, you're going to have to take those classes. So the classes have become more and more similar. Now, what Margot's talking about in her very impassioned and heartfelt comments over here,
this is the
the young woman who just spoke up, is that the thing that Apple has provided is the sense of family, because the students do have the same teachers for 4 years. The students do have a director that they can go to. And they're located in one place, and that has allowed for this family feeling to develop.
It's a home away from home, literally.
It's a home. We heard a lot of students talk to us about a home. And so and at the same time, it's not at full capacity. There are, for every class, we have a cap of 16 students. So they are smaller classes, which is the thing that students really like. We have 9 students in the 9th grade class, and 13 in the 10th grade, and 14 in the 11th grade, and 10 in the 12th grade. So we're not at capacity. We're at 70%. And part of the reason when we did the investigation that we believe this has happened is because of the fact that the main school is now providing some of the needs that in the past the Apple program provided. Now, what we're hearing, Dr. Shaps and I have spent the last week interviewing every student in 9th, 10th, and 11th grade as we get prepared to figure out what their schedules are going to look like for next year and to listen to their concerns. And what we're hearing is we need a place to do our homework, that there are strong connections, and that's our responsibility. As we move forward, we have to figure out what are we going to do so that these students do feel like they have a home, do feel like they have a place that they can go and get their homework done, do feel like a lot of what we heard was, I need somebody to tell me to go to class, and then there needs to be consequences. And that's part of the plan that we're working with Nora to think about moving forward. What will that look like? Because it's not going to be moving from Apple to the main school. There will be a lot of options in between that.
Is it, I don't mean to interrupt you, is it fair to say that the Apple program is going to be phased into as a part of the redesign? Or
what's important to add to what Liz is sharing is that, so one of the major recommendations that came out of the review was that the district work with the personnel who works under the umbrella of student support services to ascertain what are the needs, you know, and what are the things that students in Apple have really thrived with. And as well as, let's look at Mamaroneck High School on the whole, and what do we see when we look at the student body as a whole. And so we collectively, along with Annie Ward, had a series of conversations with guidance counselors, social workers, psychologists across the district. And we asked them that question, you know, tell us some success stories. Tell us about students you have, you know, that have had challenges where you feel like you haven't been able to meet their needs. What are the patterns? What do you see? And out of that, really, two distinct things really kind of rose to the top. The first being that the staff said that students in general, and I don't think this is particular to Mamaroneck, quite honestly, I know it isn't, are experiencing or reporting themselves higher levels of anxiety, depression, emotional vulnerability. And secondly, that school avoidance is kind of on the rise, and that kids, for a variety of reasons, are unable to consistently attend class. I'm not talking about a huge population of kids, maybe 20 across the middle and high school. And that requires us to start thinking about how to expand the support that we offer students outside of special education. And that's where the two groups of students really came together, I think.
Here's a question. Obviously, a worried parent. A phone call came in, and she asks if the children are moved from Apple to replacement program and emotionally fall apart, what is the backup program?
So I just want to mention, because this is important to point out, as Dr. Mazzone mentioned, our goal is to really tailor and meet the individual therapeutic needs of students. Think about it this way, Mike. The Apple program and creating that family and having students come together over a course of 3 3/4 years has allowed for a minimal amount of therapeutic or counseling support. What we believe is critically important, how can we maintain the smaller class size, provide the academic support to students, but provide more flexibility in terms of gauging what individual student may need a level of therapeutic support, and so do a gradual release and not have it as a fixed structure. So the idea is to be more nimble, think about gradual release, self-reliance and independence over time. Some students that might mean 3 3/4 years of really having an academic liaison, a counselor and social worker working with the student and families. For some, it may mean 6 months, it may mean 3 weeks. So the program with Apple, the success has been students in a cohort staying in the program over time. One of the things that the review pointed out is only 48% of students in the last 10 years actually completed 3 3/4 of the program. And so there was more fluidity around students entering, leaving, going back to main school. So we said, since the academic commitment is similar to main school, how do we have the least restrictive environment with high levels of support academically throughout the day, connections to adults, but provide the individual therapeutic ingredients, resources that will help each child. So we see that really is the primary components of the redesign. More students included, more flexibility, but more individualized support.
And in your letter, you cited an initiative with the Yale Center for Emotional Intelligence and also some expansion of the student support services that you supervise. Can you talk a little bit about that Yale
we
program?
have been at the forefront as a district in really adopting inner practices that really promote inner resilience, growth mindset, mindfulness, and social emotional learning. We had the opportunity to hear from Mark Brackett from Yale Center for Emotional Intelligence about an evidence-based program that he has instituted in schools across the country that really works with the ability for students to, at all levels, but we're going to start this pilot at the elementary schools, to embrace a social emotional charter, to come up with a common vocabulary, to be able to recognize their emotions and regulate their emotions, and we're using a variety of strategies. And we hope as we build on our inner resilience and our social emotional learning that eventually this will help students to deal with, as Dr. Mazzone mentioned, the issues of anxiety, of stress, of frustration. I think that's how it's going to begin at the elementary level. Our hope is through this program we can provide in a more, what I would say, individualized, the individual support for our adolescents or young adolescents to help them with the dealing with the pressures of day-to-day schooling.
Well, when I was at the high school, the phrase that always was associated with Apple was that these were students at risk. And I'll use these little quotation marks. What I think I'm hearing, if I understand it correctly, is that you're working to have fewer students at risk.
Well, actually, Mike, I'm glad you mentioned
who would need that,
and we've talked
kind
about
of support.
What's interesting at the NYU Steinhardt School, the wonderful study that referenced the fact that potentially all students, all adolescents, at some point are at risk. And so this idea in the past that a limited population are identified at risk for something, it's really looking at this. Every child has the potential at some point in their life to be at risk. How do we act in a proactive way and really provide the real-time support that understands what they're going through so they can maintain and really accomplish what they hope to do and process those issues that are personal to them.
We had another call come in before the show, which sometimes happens, as I explained to Dr. Schaps. This question is, for many students in the Apple program, the other programs and accommodations available at the high school have already failed for them, or the students have failed with them. And how are you going to make this work? And this, I'm assuming, means the new services.
I think that it would be helpful to describe what the district's proposing, right? And I think when going back to the study of Apple, the things that really stood out are the connection to adults, the monitoring of kids throughout the day, making sure they get to class, making sure they know there's a significant adult waiting for them to get to school and checking on them, making sure they understand their assignments, that teachers understand their needs, that there's academic intervention. So those things are still in that package for those students as they are appropriate for each individual child. I think that the transition planning here is going to be very, very critical, and many people have to be a part of that. But right now, what we're recommending is that there be what we'll call, for lack of a better term right now, an academic liaison, a person who has a history of strong relationships with children, who can help them be motivated to attend classes, make sure they're attending classes, communicate with them on a daily basis, communicate with their parents, just have their finger on the pulse of what's going on and be in one place there where they know how to access that person. In addition to that, we're proposing a full-time psychologist dedicated just to this group of students with no other responsibilities in the school. So that would be an additional support. And the reason for that is it gives that spontaneous, flexible responsiveness to kids. So if I'm a student, I'm having a rough time in math class, it's a hard day, I don't have to wait for an appointment. I can get right to somebody who can sit down and help me process it. There could be advisories, there could be counseling groups, depending again on who needs what. But that flexibility and uniqueness is there. And the last thing is for continuity for the kids that are specifically in Apple, keeping a half-time social worker that knows them well knows their families well, can continue that school-home connection. If that necessitates home visits, team meetings, that kind of thing. So this group of 3 adults would work together solely to make sure that kids are advocated for, monitored, and feel supported, and feel like they have key adults in their school day that are looking out for them.
And Mike, just to add to that point, you know, the Apple program really starts with failure. That is, you know, for better or worse, students are invited after the first quarter of their 9th grade year, after a challenging start, to join a program. Our goal actually is to work with our middle school staff to identify students who, as you say, have that something going on that adds to the challenge of transition. So working with Ms. Clain, our goal is actually to ensure success in the transition and not look at it as fail first and then provide support. So it's really trying to think differently about those students, those at-risk students, working to schedule that transition, and right from the first day of school, working with teachers to get to know the students, providing the support, so they feel they're getting off to a good start and building with momentum.
A question just came in. Will the current Apple teachers have input, and how will have input to how the transition program develops?
So we are going to work with Apple teachers and get as much input as we can as we think about the transition, and thinking about what every single student needs, because what student A needs, student B does not need, and what an 11th grade student transitioning into 12th grade needs would not be the same thing as a 9th grade going into 10th grade. So that is our commitment to looking at every single student, but not as a group, as an individual.
We had a question coming in earlier wondering where Linda Sherwood is tonight. She's the coordinator of Apple. So, but this is an opportunity for the administration to talk. And I should say that next week we're going to give an equal opportunity for other people to talk about their concerns of Apple and the transition. And
I think the more we talk about it, the more able we are to come to a place that feels more comfortable. I mean, from the perspective of my office, you know, from Student Support Services, I mean, and I was speaking with a parent today, and I said the same thing. We want to hear, and we are committed to working side by side with families and students to whether they have an IEP and they're classified with special education or not, to help this plan come to fruition, you know, for each child.
The IEP, for those who don't know,
Individualized Education Plan. Those are students who have been classified as having a disability, and there are a number of them within Apple, but there also are students who are in general education, and so under our department, we have staff that work across the board, like guidance counselors and that kind of thing. So I think it's fair to say there has to be a transition plan for each student. There has to be hand scheduling for students. It really has to be a needs assessment per
And it's interesting, Mike, because in our conversations with students, we recognize that because of the scheduling of the Apple program, where students are taking core courses with all of the Apple teachers.
And that would be the core, again, for our viewers, would be the math, the science,
English, social studies.
Just electives are taken out in the general population.
Right, but to that point, what we recognize is that the interesting electives, students having opportunities to take architecture, robotics, culinary arts, that because of the scheduling conflicts, there have been limitations to those to access this. So for many students, it actually provides more opportunity for engaged learning, and we're hoping that helps. The other thing in our redesign, because one of the things that we're conscious, certainly cognizant of, is that this beloved program is an institution. And as you know, as the needs of children change over a 40-year time period, how do we think differently? We've looked at a program in Brookline, Massachusetts, a high-performing school, about helping students who transition back from day treatment, hospitalization, and really having a bridge so that they're not just coming back in full force to a full academic load. So getting back to our original point through the redesign is how can we meet the needs of more students and certainly continuing support for our 35 returning Apple students.
A question came in earlier. Actually, to your point, it's a program. It's as if a program like Apple is working for its students. Why take it away, or why not let those already in it finish their high school careers there and just not offer it to future students. Did you consider
We did,
that?
and it's not feasible. I mean, we're talking about 9 students of freshmen going into 10th grade. It really, from our vantage point, there's more to offer by making this transition now and meeting what I think is the core needs of the students without staying with the same framework. And I think that's how, certainly we took a lot of time after the program review to step back and consider the impact, the timing, but we feel very confident that students, we've asked each student, give us a chance. We'll work with you and your family, and hopefully throughout next year we'll be able to continue to get feedback, and they'll say, we're doing okay. And I think, that open mind, that growth mindset that we talk about as a system, we're hoping people can understand it. So this is not about eliminating, it's really just changing shape, thinking differently about how we deliver education.
And evaluating it as it goes along? Not just implement and then
right.
wait
Well, we're
a
going to
year.
need to monitor and very closely every student who comes out of Apple, but also, as Nora mentioned, we're talking about we're going to have 37 students that we're going to need to monitor that are Apple students, but we also have a range of other students in the main school with all sorts of needs that will be able to get something out of the program that we are, looking forward to designing.
Yes, and to that point, to add it, at Tuesday evening's board meeting, the board asked us how will we provide updates on our efforts, and we've made not only a commitment to the students in the Apple program, the parents, but to the Board of Education to account for the transition plan and to report out to the community, to come back here on LMC-TV Live and really just talk about the progress we're making, because we certainly want a level of transparency and communication that really supports this change and this redesign. And I think the board expects it, the community expects it, and we expect it as professionals who believe in this initiative.
Well, here's our last question that I have in front of me, and it's about budget. And it says, from a budgetary point of view, regarding the elimination of Apple, how much in dollars will it save, and are the same resources going to be reallocated?
So I would say it came up in our conversation. This, you have to understand, Mike, that we time all our initiatives for the following year around the budget. That we started this process in the fall to look at the Apple program in terms of the review in January. We continue to do research and interviews and gather information. We typically introduce any change in program along with the budget process. Currently, there are 5.5 teachers, or 5 full-time, 0.5 in the program, and so you have to say that by moving those teachers back into the mainstream, what are the savings to that? But also, we are adding staff in terms of the academic liaison and transferring over the social worker. So it's hard to say the true savings. This is more about supporting kids and redesign and less about the bottom line.
Well, on that note, we're going to end because we're running out of time, and we have more program coming up. The Local Live still has more information for you. Thank you for the three of you for coming on, and you're welcome to come back anytime.
Thanks very much.
And here's more of the Local Live.
The 6th annual Sound Shore St. Patrick's Day Parade took place on Sunday afternoon. Alexandria Garcia has the highlights.
On March 19th, the Mamaroneck community celebrated St. Patrick's Day that brought all groups alike to walk or drive along Mamaroneck Avenue with Irish pride.
Today's such a beautiful day for St. Patrick's Day Parade. What makes you guys come out and walk every year?
Rain or shine, snow or wind, we're out here because it's a lot of fun and it's a lot of community pride, whether you're Irish or not or have any Irish blood in you.
6th annual parade. This is an excellent example of the diversity of the friendly village of Mamaroneck in Westchester County. It's an honor to have our county executive here.
Marchers definitely showed off their dance moves, while children waved to onlookers from the fire trucks. alongside traditional Irish pipers.
What do you think it is of this community and of this culture?
Right. Well, you know, I also think regardless of whether you're Irish, I mean, everybody's a little bit Irish for the St. Patrick's Day celebration, but it's also a great celebration of immigration. And Mamaroneck is all about welcoming immigrants to our communities. So really that, I think, is what we're all celebrating.
Later on, we catched up with the LMC-TV crew.
Hi, Matt.
How are we doing, Alexandria?
We're good. We're doing really good. How
Great.
is it walking so far?
Oh, it's fantastic. Beautiful day out, and it's a great time to be here.
At the St. Patrick's Day Parade, I was able to speak to former Mamaroneck Town Supervisor Valerie O'Keefe, who was also the first female Grand Marshal of the parade.
What's your favorite part of walking in the parade?
I like to see the people on the side, but I have to say, no matter what parade it is, whether it's the 4th of July or the Fireman's Parade, when you hear those bands, it gives you some energy.
But what do you think the Irish has contributed to Westchester, especially to the Mamaroneck community?
I think it's a sense that the Irish have a sense of community. Okay. And my wife, who's not Irish, says there's one thing about Irish people. He said, you love being Irish. And I think on a day like this, that really comes out.
Well, there you have it, everyone. This was the 6th annual St. Patrick's Day Parade on Mamaroneck Avenue. And I hope you had as much fun as I did. We walked with LMC-TV and we saw so many bands and we saw the contribution of the police department and of the fire department. I hope you had as much fun as we did, and we'll see you here. Same time, same place, next year in the St. Patrick's Day Parade on Mamaroneck Avenue. Signing off, and from LMC-TV, we wish you a happy St. Patrick's Day. From the Local Live, I'm Alexandra Garcia. Cupcake the cat is a real charmer, cuddly, playful, and beautiful. She would be happiest as the only cat in an active household without small children. For more on adopting Cupcake, visit ny-petrescue.org.
And remember, to help keep us on the air, make an online donation. Go to lmctv.org and click on the donate button in the upper right corner. We really appreciate the help.
We always welcome new volunteers and interns. We'd love to hear from you. Send an email to the Local Live at lmctv.org and join our crew. Thank you so much for watching our show. That's all for tonight. I'm Alexandra Garcia.
And I'm Rob Byers. See you next week for another episode of the Local Live.